I'm Holly, founder of What the Stars Say Astrology. I'm here today to talk about a subject that is of great importance in the year 2020. It's the biggest explanation, the most common explanation I can have when people say, what is going on this year? What is happening this year? Because the transit that I'm going to be talking about is the backbone of so many of the current events, the change of tides, the paradigm shift, the disruption that is 2020. It's something that we're feeling so strongly now, and we're going to continue to feel it. So even though I've talked about this before, and I really went into this in the subject of the overall shit show that is 2020, I want to go into this right now because I feel like going back and reaching people I didn't get before, or reiterating what I've said, is going to help people make sense of this transit and then be better prepared. Because what we're talking about today is Uranus and Taurus, and this is a transit that began in 2018 and stays with us until 2026. So we have 6 more years of this transit, and we can already see this in full effect now, as I'm sure you'll conclude with me at the end of this, okay? So what I would like to do is incorporate a little teaching and just not say, oh, it's this way because I say it's this way. That's nonsense. I want to break down, the symbolism, the mythology, the history behind this, so you can better understand the cyclical nature of these transits. I also feel like it's really important in 2020 more than ever. We want sources, and we want facts, and we want real news, right? So let's go into that as well too, okay? Again, I'm Holly, founder of What the Stars Say. We offer intuitive astrology sessions for individuals as well as courses. There will be more announcements, more housekeeping. Even though things have been calm and quiet on the surface, trust me, there's work being done behind the scenes to make things even better. I'm not going to get into a lot of housekeeping on this video because there's still some things that haven't been announced yet. So what I will say, the only thing I'll say here is please follow What the Stars Say on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and join us at whatthestarsay.com. There is a way you can just sign up really easy and get an email notification each time there's a new blog. Beyond that, there's no extra marketing emails you'll receive. Nothing at this time. So it's really simple to just get a notification every time there's new content, is what I'm saying. And if you would follow along and like and follow us, you will find a lot more is in the mix right now, and it's coming to the surface, okay? But let's get into Uranus and Taurus, and let's begin by talking about the cool outer planet that is Uranus. To start, I would just like to point out that the symbol that is Uranus is actually Mars's shield with the sun. It's a shield and sun. And this is, when you have the power of Mars, our action planet, aggression and war, and then you have the power of the sun as our luminary together, it kind of says what a force Uranus is, right? But beyond that, all of the names, all of the myths, all of the stories about Uranus show what a force it is, and we're going to get into that more, okay? So we're dealing with this outer planet, Uranus, and when I say Uranus in Taurus, I mean Uranus is literally in the Taurus constellation, where it went in the spring of 2018, and then where it will be until 2026, okay? So Uranus is in Taurus, so we can look at both the celestial body and the house and the astrological symbol here. Now, Taurus is known as the bull. It's an earth element, and we're having basically who you could consider to be the father of Earth in the actual Earth constellation itself, okay? So this means a lot's going to happen on Earth, okay? Let's get into that. So when I talk about history and sources and everything, where do astrologers get this information from? Well, believe it or not, astrology is very data-driven, okay? And astrology has been studied and recorded since the earliest civilizations on this planet, on Earth. And there's a reason why the Farmer's Almanac incorporates astrology, because a lot of the data, was applicable to agriculture. And you have records of everything. So when I go in and I tell you about how Uranus and Taurus affects our weather system, please understand that I know that because this isn't the first time this has happened. And there are people that recorded what the weather was like, what the social and geopolitical climate was like, what the money, this has been recorded. When Uranus is in Taurus, there's a pattern that repeats. So it's taking that data, it's finding that pattern, it's looking at that mythology and those themes to see how it plays out, okay? And not only that, but how Uranus plays out, it's so layered, it's going to affect you personally because this is bouncing off your personal natal chart. And it's also going to be hitting on certain, locations or hitting at hard transits during its 6-year cycle here in Taurus, right? So there's other things that add to it. So what we're doing is a general lay discussion, okay? So historically, Uranus and Taurus has not been the easiest times. And what the historical data shows is when Uranus is in the Taurus constellation, we have a repeat of the same issues. And they've shown throughout history. And I'm going to go into a little bit of that and just give you a few examples to set the stage here a little bit, okay? So the tracking of Uranus and Taurus goes back to very early times. I'm only going to start here with like July 1850. I think that's back enough. So actually, let's go to the 1600s. Okay, in the 1600s, we had Uranus and Taurus, and it is reported at that time that Russia suffered from a massive famine. There could have been other problems, but communication wasn't quite like it is now and everything back in the 1600s. But we can also show that when Uranus was in Taurus in 1935 to 41, we had the Dust Bowl. We had changes in crops and food shortages here in the United States. There was also food issues, hunger, and rations throughout the globe at that time. It wasn't just the Dust Bowl and the change of food agriculture in the United States. It was throughout there. And in astrology, that is really not surprising because Uranus is known for being the unexpected disruptor. And Taurus is the earth, food, land, right? So it's not too surprising there's unexpected disruptions. It falls into, the mythology, the story of them both. So in July of 1850 and April 1851, if you look at those times, there was also huge social changes, social uprising, which we're seeing now, and which we saw in 35-41. There's also big changes and shifts in wealth and political power. We're seeing that right now as well. So I personally find 1935 to 1941 to be one of the most relevant times. And what's interesting about this is the warning signs we have in place. And when we co-create with astrology, we learn how to better navigate, prevent, circumvent, and approach the challenges that await us. So we have 6 more years into this transit to watch out for the warning signs and the themes here. And that's why I feel like this is a transit that is worth repeating because, this is so important to our future. In 35 and 41, I'm going to go through the themes, okay? I might just want to jot these down when I say themes so I know. Energy, a shift in energy, transitions in the energy that's used. This could be coal to oil, and now look at what's happened to oil production, how much it's went down from 2018 to 2020. Then you have, they always seem to find new ways to tax people when this transit's happening. And the invention of parking meters was a new way that they came up with the last time Uranus was in Taurus, okay? So new taxes, and what happened to us between 2018 and 2020? New taxes, okay? So then, as I mentioned, there was food issues, hunger, rations. The Dust Bowl happened. Here in the United States, we were dealing with World War II and the Great Depression. And now it's clear that people aren't interested in World War III. Nobody is, except those that would benefit, that small group that would benefit from it. And the Great Depression was part of it. And what are they seeing here in 2020? The Greater Depression. Okay, this is a repeat theme. And not only that, most financial analysis, analysis in 2019 said we were already in a recession. 2020 has just really blown that up and shown us what we're dealing with. Weather is always part of this. So as part of Uranus's mythology, Uranus is known as Lord of Earthquakes, Lord of Thunder, Lord of Lightning Bolts. Throughout time, Uranus and Taurus has brought climate change. Now, I'm not a climate denier. I am very clear on the history of this planet and how climate changes. Okay? Climate changes. Are we going into a disaster? One, let's look at it this way. We should all be stewards of the earth. From the moment humans got here, as we created our society throughout the Industrial Revolution, we should have been considering how to be excellent stewards of the earth. We did not. We've not lived a sustainable life. Nature is resurrecting. She'll be here long after, we faced our extinction, okay? But we have to do better, We have to do better. We have to live a more sustainable way. So there's a lot of things you'll see through this transit that the scientific minds, and the people that stand to benefit will want to say, this is climate change, this is climate change. And there's a lot of things you can say, this is Uranus and Taurus. Because historically, throughout time, there has been floods, typhoons, hurricanes, major earthquakes. In 35 to 34, Turkey, Chile, Romania all had major quakes. Texas that was the other thing that was really weird. Huge explosions. We just had huge explosions happening in multiple places, okay? There was a huge explosion with mass death in numerous countries. In Texas, just the state of Texas, there was a huge explosion and a hurricane. So some areas are really struggling with quick and unexpected weather. So what do we have in 2020? We now have fire tornadoes. We have all these weather phenomena that we've never even heard of. A lot of this is Uranus and Taurus, okay? The plastic in the ocean, we can't attribute to Uranus and Taurus. That's humans' fault. But a lot of the unexpected weather you'll see isn't as unexpected as it might seem. I'm going to give you an example. The day Uranus entered Taurus in 2018, at the exact time, that was when the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii erupted. Timing. So Uranus is earning water, mudslides, flooding, hurricanes, typhoons, volcanoes, earthquakes, lightning storms, crazy lightning storms just the other day. All of these things are happening. And that's part of it. It's been throughout history. The other part about it, besides the weather, the other commonality we see throughout these times, besides the social change, is actually a rise of dictators. So when Uranus is in Taurus, we've had the rise of Hitler, of Mao, of Stalin, Mussolini, and Spain's Franco, okay? Fascism as an ideology, for some reason, likes to come up during the cycle, okay? We could go into that, but then it would be layer and layer. Eugenics also seems to come up a bit, too. The creation of the Federal Reserve happened the last time Uranus is in Taurus. What focus we have on the Federal Reserve here in 2020, So anyway, you look back at that, and there's commonalities, there's themes, there's history, there's data that show these are the trends, these are the themes, these are the areas, okay? So if you want to understand Uranus, walk backwards. That was the advice I was giving and how to learn more about this amazing, weird planet, okay? And it's so true. It's an outer planet. As I mentioned, we've got the sun and the shield of Mars here. We've got Lord of Earthquakes and Thunder, and it's very powerful stuff. But also, in Greek mythology, Uranus was known as god of the sky and the heavens. It's very powerful. There's the myth about Uranus being, Earth's lover. And I was explaining the story once, and I was like, this was my my own weird way of describing the mythology. I'm like, so it's like Uranus and Mother Earth fell in love, and they had a lot of babies together, and then she was like, why do you gotta go mess up my nice Earth? You gotta go and blow that up and then make that hurricane happen and, you know, have this volcano erupt. It's kind of my joke. So she asked her son, Saturn, to go and off him. Oh, and he was also cheating on her. And he's spreading his seed everywhere, messing up her beautiful land, you know, her beautiful planet and waters, and spreading the seed everywhere. And she was done with it. So she sent Saturn. And Saturn went to castrate him in his sleep. And as he tossed it out, you know, those last sperm seeds fell and created Aphrodite. So who's a big player in 2020? Saturn, right? Saturn conjunct Pluto is going to be getting us for 2 years. You can't blame the pandemic on Uranus and Taurus. That would be in the Saturn-Pluto playhouse, okay? But when they're both happening at the same time, as it is 20 to 2022, okay? You get that play in there. You get that mythology, that story. There's a reckoning that's occurring on a cosmic level. There's a shakedown, right? There's a big family drama playing out. Uranus is a major player, not to be messed with. Uranus is known for shock and awe, revolution, the rebel, the innovator, the outsider. Also known for extremes, like Uranus is the wild card planet. You know, I mean, it's just the wild card. It's expect the unexpected is the only thing that Uranus will really promise us. So Uranus also rules astrology, technology, and it's the ruler of Aquarius. And as we go into the winter solstice and the age of Aquarius, this Uranus's presence is really important, okay? Uranus is about electrical change, and that's really happening here. Then we're going to get to Taurus real quick here, so you can see how the two play, and then I'll break down this current time and tell you all the themes right now that I'm seeing for this time frame and how this is unfolding. You know, as this is happening today, yesterday, it will keep going. Okay, so Taurus represents Earth herself. So we have the disgruntled lover of Earth, you know, in her home. Taurus is about the material, okay? Gold, land, food, comfort, sensuality, nature, okay? And this is like real practical, grounded, sustainable energy. Taurus also rules the throat chakra and the voice, okay? So what we have is, we have the unexpected disruptor coming back to Earth, this Earth sign, and this is a karmic reckoning, as so many of the astrological stories of 2020 are. And at the core of this karmic reckoning, I would like to call this, the theme of this transit, life out of balance. Earth out of balance, okay? That's what we're looking at here. So we can say, oh, okay, hang on a second, I'll get to that in a second, I'm sorry. So what can we expect? We can expect the unexpected on Earth. Let's get to the target areas. I really want to get into there here, because that will help me get all these, I have to say this and this out of the way. So life out of balance. We are asked to confront the myriad of ways modern life is out of balance. The COVID experience this year has really made so many of us look at the ways that our life was out of balance, how our life is currently still out of balance. So this is such a relevant theme for this time. What is our personal relationship to the material world? That's the other big theme at this time, this other question that we're going to be asked, right? How is our life out of balance with the Earth and its resources? How does technology consume nature is another question we're being asked. And we're also being asked to look at our integrity, our values, our materialism, our sustainability, our narcissism, our resources, how we treat the land, how we create our food. These are all things that are happening at this time. So let's go back to 2018. Now I know we've been through so much this year, it's kind of hard to go back. But the first target area I want to talk about, I titled The Burden of Ownership. So if you go back to 2018, you'll see it's not really a coincidence that the Marie Kondo method of tidying up became so popular. And this was happening as Uranus moved into Taurus, and this cosmic shift, this transit, is asking us to confront the stuff we've accumulated in our lives, and to re-examine what material goods and resources we truly value. Knowing that we were in this transit, I started noticing around 2018 how we started buying far more practical gifts for one another. We really thought about all those tchotchkes or those toss away things, and all that extra packaging. We started to think about that more. So many of us did. And we went to buy more practical gifts. And then we all went through and we decluttered and we tidied up and we thought, I don't need this. This is still going on now, and this will continue to be a trend. But to me, it's just really interesting that the tidy method that Marie has brought forward for years really caught on at this time. It's not too surprising, because what this transit did is it made excess out of fashion, is what it's doing. It's excess is out and simplicity is in. Besides our actual belongings and our stuff, like our tangible stuff, we're also being asked to examine both our personal and our collective debt. And this is where the burden of ownership comes in. As you can imagine, now that we're into 2020, what you owe and what you have means a bit more than ever, So waste, financial irresponsibility, financial deception, living beyond our means and everything, and all of these things come up, and they will continue to come up over the next 6 years. The other one is I call the end of fast fashion. This is one of the targets that Uranus and Taurus is really after here, and what a great job destroying this industry. So the reason why fast fashion is a target is because like when 2018 was coming in, okay, we started getting in more into sustainable fashion. So people, and we watched our money more. We didn't want to spend on designer clothes, and why should we when we can rent the runway, and ThreadUp came up, and Etsy things came up, and all of these different things came up where we went, and it wasn't a bad thing to have secondhand clothing anymore. It was actually quite savvy, okay? So that came up. But fast fashion as an industry has to go, because the target here is any company or person that puts profit before people and nature. The practices within the fast fashion and fashion industry as a whole are not sustainable. It's very difficult at this time to still find really accessible, sustainable, conscious clothing. I mean, there's more of it, but it's not to the masses. And how is that mass clothing produced? Sweatshops, factories, again. So this is the majority of it. It's not the entire fashion industry, but it's the majority of it. And that's got to go. I mean, the Taurus part is about beauty. She wants the beauty, but she loves the earth so much. So she wants to have it, be sustainable, and be kind to people, and have it be quality based, right? So Uranus has disrupted that industry, but also too, I just want to say, as we move into the Aquarius constellation, energy at the winter solstice of 2020, and with Saturn's playing in and all that, Saturn Aquarius, I think we'll find more uniform dressing. And at first that was funny to me to think about uniform dressing, and then I thought about Kanye West's fashion lines and how he did it, and whether people like it or not is irrelevant because it's been copied since. He did the fashion line where so many of the models all looked the same, right? And they were all wearing these nude and taupe and natural tones. And now you see so many people embracing natural tone clothing. It's not about standing out. It's more uniform dressing. And that's something we'll see more of. As people are working from home, uniform dressing has changed. Our uniform has changed. It was disrupted. Suddenly work clothes can be pajamas now. So that's part of the disruption in the fashion industry. I'm giving you guys the light stuff first. Hang on, we're going to get heavy here in a minute. Although that is heavy to the people that are in that industry, that is their livelihood. So what's interesting is, even though we're not all Versace about our clothes, we're all about the gold. Uranus and Taurus ruling goes all about the gold. So many times during this transit, there has been California gold rush, for example, okay? So with this gold rush, one thing is like, I keep an eye on all the headlines to see how these play out and just kind of monitor and look for how it's rolling out. And sure enough, earlier this year, there was a story about how there's a gold rush in space. Okay, so there you go. And Uranus is all about that kind of tech, aeronautic energy. Gold in space is what we've had. And if you were looking at the metal markets, gold is doing incredibly well. And with Uranus and Taurus, we always have a currency change, and people are sensing the changes that's coming, the market shift. It's quite clear what's going on to some, and they're going for the gold because the gold has a longer value. It's more sustainable, it's a more practical thing, like which Taurus likes and everything like that. So that's coming into play too. The prominence and the value and the emphasis on gold has, it's been happening since 2018. It's just more prevalent now in 2020 because people are waking up to what's going on, right? So then the other thing is, and this one, can I just say this and we just all have a collective kind of sick laugh? The other one is News of the Weird. I called it News of the Weird because I like to read the little oddities section. You go to AP News and oddities, or the weird news section in your paper, whatnot. Weird news. We've had so many of that. We've had weird news, and we've had fake news, and we've had major disclosures, and everything is so big in 2020 and fast paced that we're forgetting it. So in this time, let's go back to space for a second. We say we're going to start mining on the moon. There's a gold rush in space. The Pentagon confirms encounters with unidentified flying objects. Okay, that's kind of weird. And I think the energies are still really right for like a fake alien invasion, more discoveries on the moon or through mining. A lot more. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of really significant archaeological discoveries are made at this time. Unexpected disruption in the earth, unexpected surprises in the earth. Okay, so those are some things. I'm just waiting on the alien part, and then you could say, oh, that's crazy, but during this transit, what happened? The U.S. government created a sixth branch of the military called Space Force. You might not have heard of it, but there's 15,000 people currently serving in the U.S. Space Force, okay? The other part, as I mentioned before, if you put profit for people and the environment, your time's kind of up. There's so much corporate karma. I just gave them this own section here. In 2020, this has taken a new layer because when businesses have been acting a fool throughout this, we see them. We see the businesses we want to support. We're voting with our dollar and making or break businesses. The power of our dollar is more evident than ever. We know we can help save businesses, and we know some businesses can't be saved. Now, Saturn and Pluto, if you're a broken, corrupt system or company at this time, they want to destroy you completely. But Uranus is a little bit nicer. And if Uranus sees a broken system that's not completely broken, it's just got some Swiss cheese holes in it, needs some repairs, Uranus won't destroy completely. It'll try to save it. So some people will be, they'll have a second chance of life. They'll have a break here. But those people, those companies, those corporations that put profit before people and nature will be part of the corporate karma reckoning that's happening. The fashion industry will not be the only one. And I've really noticed the tech industry coming back here too. There will continue to be a lot of tech issues. Every tech leader and giant of this country has been put in the hot seat this year. People are waking up to privacy. People are talking about being deplatformed. So many people want new platforms and just get away from the old order. We're at the point where we realize Big Brother isn't our government, it's our tech companies. And that's something we're going to have to deal with. And corporate karma will, it's not just going to skip the tech industry. It's not going to happen. We'll see it across the board. I want to say the good part about this. So globalization isn't that great when it comes to sustainability, okay? And I'm going to get into this with food production too, because this is life out of balance. It's correcting the imbalance here. So globalization is just in this impossible position according to the cosmic story at play here. What Uranus and Taurus seeks to achieve is businesses that are hyper local, local focus, serve the community, people focus, and engage in sustainable environmental practices, okay? So that's, all those people are on notice. With the tech, Uranus and Taurus is likely to bring us amazing innovation. So let's talk electric cars. This is a topic that's coming up a lot. Uranus and Taurus through 2026 is going to help us get that innovation, that spark. And then when Uranus moves into Gemini in 2027, I think that at that time we'll be able to perfect the electric vehicle. It will be so mainstream, okay? But this is going to give that spark, that innovation. It's like the idea, you know, in the ether, all the ideas floating around. Oh, we'll get that idea. We will see so much innovation. This innovation is not going to come from corporations. This innovation is going to come from people, you know, individuals. There will be great innovations when it comes to electric cars, when it comes to 3D printing, way more innovations when it comes to food production, which we're going to get into. Very supportive of that. But there's this time, we have this potentiality for this tremendous technological advancement and tackling some of society's biggest problems. But when technology is just used to gather our data and sell it, like we're products and everything like that, it's not helping us grow and push forward and innovate, okay? We're not seeing technology used in the way Uranus and Taurus wants to use it, okay? This is the revolutionary, the inventor, okay? This is the astrologer, you know, so this is science and the stars and the cosmic things and the magic, and it's all of it. This is the big wild card. And I see that platforms, digital platforms that truly are free, that we don't have to give our data or our soul or grandma's name to in order to participate in. I see that coming up. And then a more affordable health technology, things that are really simple, like simple fixes. Innovation doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to have an engineering degree to be an innovator or to come up with solutions, okay? One really great example of this is a teenager who has devised a net system to remove amazing amounts of plastic from the ocean. Does he have a degree in marine biology, environmental waste, or anything like that? No, he's a teenager with a great idea and the passion to do it. So we'll see more things like that. This is the good news. The bad news is we also risk letting these tech giants save the world, only to shortly realize the life jacket doesn't even work. And on this one, I will just say Bill Gates is not an epidemiologist. He's a college dropout who started a company that focuses on viruses. We don't need to hear from Bill Gates on a global health crisis. We need to hear from epidemiologists. We need to hear from doctors, okay? The whole, I'm the tech giant, I will save the world thing, no. But that's what we run the risk of. And we also run the risk of letting Big Brother and the tech giants invade more in our privacy and invade more in our freedom and put us more in this kind of content bubble where it's just reinforcing our beliefs and not including anybody else, or it's just pushing us through the same and not challenging us and pushing us forward. So all of that is going to shift over the next 6 years, and we just have to make sure it goes in a good way, okay? If you're good at tech, stay in tech, okay? Talk to us about tech all day. You know, we need computer software people to talk to us about software. We need epidemiologists, you know, to talk to us about health things. We need doctors to talk to us about things. So that part's coming in, and people will have to decide, you know, do you want more Big Brother? Do you want a college dropout to tell you how he's going to save the world? I mean, you have to think about these things. So, and I don't really care if I'm talking bad about Bill Gates. I really don't care. That's my thought on it. So I really hope in a health crisis. People listen to health professionals, and when they need IT support, they talk to IT people. It's as simple as that, but we can't get it all that mixed up. This is, I call it Revenge of the Nerds. And I think there will be more tech issues. I think there'll be more glitches. There's already places that are experiencing rolling blackouts at this time, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had a moment in 2020 where we, did not have internet at a time, or we have more glitches. So many people during a Mercury retrograde will notice the glitchy stuff, the computer and the technology and how it reacts. With Uranus and Taurus, we can just continue to expect that. It's not just a 3 to 6 week thing that's going to go. It's going to keep happening. It's going to have glitches and everything on it too. So, excuse me. Keep in mind too, these tech companies have a karmic reckoning when it comes to putting profit before people and the environment. And if we could just, be equal opportunity haters, let's talk about Apple. Let's talk about the suicide nets in China at Apple factories. Yes, Apple has decided to move some operations to India, but how much environmental waste and pollution has Apple caused? Were they putting profit before people and nature? Karmic reckoning. Okay, here's another fun one. This is a weird one. Cow rebellion. What is she talking about? Well, Taurus is the bull. And I heard, okay, cow rebellion is going to happen through this one. I mean, go ahead and laugh. But in 2018, whenever this transit happened, and I was monitoring for what happened, sure enough, there was a cow war in India. People were shooting sacred cows as a retaliation, so a cow rebellion army was formed to protect the cows. Here we are in 2020. How are the cows rebelling now? Well, their body parts are hard to find and harder to buy. Cattle farmers are not faring well, so there's a really good chance that as this transit goes on, there will not be as many cows on this planet. There will not be as many factory farms. There will not be, as much methane. More people are returning to plant-based diets. We're worried about health. We're worried about things like that. So that's another thing adds to it. This year, in 2020, we had a dairy dump. The 2020 Running the Bulls was canceled. The bull's going to win. The bull is going to win, okay? Cow rebellion. So that's a weird anecdote, but we'll keep seeing it over the next few years. If you know somebody in the cattle industry, they need to shift gears. That's not going to go well. Here's the other thing. This one gets a little heavy too, but food failure. As I mentioned before, famines are very common. Food shortages, rations are very common, okay? We've been having, since 2018, let's see, all the farmland along the Mississippi River, well, not all of it, but a lot, was flooded. Floods in Nebraska, floods throughout the heartland. Just this past week, an inland hurricane destroyed soybean and corn crops in 3 counties in Ohio. California produces, 40% of our agriculture needs in this country? Fires, crop failure is what we have at this time. So, Taurus represents land and food, while Uranus is disrupting the industry. The food production has been disrupted. The supply chain has been disrupted. We've seen that. We were seeing that before. We were getting hints of it before. And now it's really there. And what Uranus and Taurus really wants us to do is to adopt more sustainable farming practices. Okay? So regenerative farming is going to be very important. The vertical grow that people are working on right now, very important. Using land to grow crops instead of just having, cows in pens, everywhere. We're going to have to rethink all of this in food production. And it can be a rough, bumpy ride until we get there, okay? So, what's so interesting about this? Now, you got to take the good and you got to take the bad, all right? Uranus and Taurus is succeeding because look at how many victory gardens were created. How many first-time victory gardens? How many people are excited about gardening their own time? How many people are more excited about community gardens at this time? This is deliberate. This is the shift, okay? It wants us to get back to that. It's all about hyper-local, okay? Local food, local agriculture. If you think about this, most of the food that is in your grocery store traveled on an average 1,000 miles to get there. 1,000 miles. That is non-environmentally sustainable. whatsoever, okay? So this is about getting into a more sustainable practice with agriculture, with food, but we're going to go through this rough spot like we did with the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl when Uranus was also in Taurus, okay? We're going to have to find a way to be more harmonious so Mother Nature, you know, in our land here will continue to provide for us. It's a big thing we're working on. Not only have we had to change the food production, supply chains, but we are having an economic shift. Maybe we'll have a reset. Currency counts when Uranus is in Taurus. Economic recessions and a shift in currencies is just part of this transit. When we have the other things that are going on too, it's just guaranteed this is going to happen. What we're being asked here is to be creative and flexible while also being mindful enough that we don't end up in a hyperinflation situation. This is tricky. During Uranus and Taurus, during the Depression, the Great Depression, ration coupons were used during the currency and banking regulation shift. Alternative currencies, not necessarily even digital, but you know, they had like the war bucks, you know, at that time and things like that. Alternative currencies, maybe digital, maybe not. The ability to barter and trade locally, this is going to be really important. But also, going back to the burden of ownership and that theme, we've got to get so real about our debt, our personal and collective debt. We've got to get real about that. That is a karmic reckoning that we will face both individually as needed and collectively as needed. And a lot is needed right there. The people and the markets are all shifting. So as 2020 has shown us, like if one industry's going, you know, you got to shift gears quick and get into another. You can't wait. It's gone, you know. And that's something that we're dealing with right now. And again, unexpected disruption, okay? Not only will we go to this like more hyper local agricultural, you know, and food system, it will be embraced, but we'll also get more like it'll be like the world gets smaller, okay? It's by the end of this cycle, it'll seem like our world's got a little smaller and a little simpler and a little back to nature in a way, okay? So with all the things that are happening, and I could go into astrology, but I don't want to convolute this message. So think of it like this. Instead of long trips, you know, and long international travel, short road trips, you know, we'll have shorter destinations, shorter places to go, that kind of thing. Our world's gotten smaller already when our commute is within our own house. Oh, let me walk from, you know, the bedroom to the study to go to work today. I mean, it'll just get smaller in a way. And that can be good because as primates, we really can only handle like 100 people at the most in our group and everything. And yet there's people that think that they have 12,000 friends that they're all keeping up with. This isn't sustainable, okay? This is not sustainable. So things will just go more local in a way. And instead of worrying like everything that's out there and comparing ourselves to the whole world, we're going to go smaller. And I think for so many people, that's going to feel good. Now, there's a little bit of confrontation of narcissism and vanity here and everything like that. That plays into it a lot, but I really think the Saturn-Pluto one is getting that one more. So I'm not going to go into that one too much. Really, there's a lot of personal karma at play here, but Uranus and Taurus isn't really obsessed with like your personal identity as much. Let's just say that, okay? It is, let's see, skip that one. Okay. The other thing is okay, so the energy, okay? Energy shifts. When Uranus was in Taurus, you know, around the 30s to 40s, we went from coal to oil. And then now, I mean, really, it's just, unfortunately, for so many workers at this time, energy company after energy company is filing for bankruptcy or closing down. This is also happening with fracking. Do you think Uranus and Taurus is sad about fracking ending? No, not at all. Do you think Uranus and Taurus wants to have us is to have alternative energy that's much cleaner and more sustainable. Yep, that's where we're going. That's where we're going. There will be the karmic blowback to the energy companies that have put profit before people and the nature, like everything else. And at this time, we're encouraged to just create something better, to create better energy. So let's see how we go with alternative and clean energy as we go through this transit. And not only that, what momentum can we build up at this time that Uranus and Gemini will just kick into gear, immediately in 2027. So, I also want to say with News of the Weird, just keep in mind there the whole space aspect and keep an eye on the skies, because there will be more weird stuff coming up there. When we look at, the last time was right before Roswell. It was like, I think about 2 years before Roswell. It ended, and then 2 years later at Roswell. But I still see that happening. I mean, News of the Weird, I think there's so many examples of that right now. What we have to watch out for primarily as a collective whole is the rise of fascism as an ideology. And I just want to say that I don't think everybody's quite clear on what fascism is. And if we can go back to the rise of Hitler and World War II from the last transit and this happened, I just want to say there was a lot of people that supported Hitler and supported what happened to the Jewish people at that time, and they were pretty good people. They were just kind of minding the status quo. I mean, I don't think they really realized at that time who and what they were supporting, right? But they mean well. Does that count? Does history give a shit if you meant well? So please, look up fascism, learn about some history, and make sure that it doesn't rise up over the next 6 years, okay? And if you think, oh, I don't know about that, I just want to point out, at this time here on Earth, there are 49 dictators on Earth in control of countries at this time. 49, okay? 49. Not done yet. There's still more things to do. Mars in Aries is what's causing the summer of youthful rebellion, as many people are calling it. But you could definitely say that Uranus is bringing this rebellious energy. It brings strikes, it brings uprising and everything like that. Besides the space energy, the earth shifts, the production, the agricultural shifts, there's some real wild card energy here. And it's been suggested that Uranus and Taurus could even bring a magnetic pole shift. Really, it's a really fascinating time to keep an eye on the skies, to follow out what's going there, to look at the weather changes, to just scan the headlines and see all this unfolds, because Uranus and Taurus is really a major player. So how is this playing out for you in your personal chart? You'll want to take a look at where Uranus is at in regards to your chart, and then you can see the area depending on the house. I'm going to give a quick example here. I helped a friend see where Uranus was in her chart, and it was in between her 7th and her 8th house. It was like moving up. So by the time, right now, just this past week, Uranus went into retrograde. So it's a shift, and it's going to last until November. So for her, at this time, with it between her 7th and 8th house, okay, so your 7th house is your relationships, and your 8th house is like other people's monies, taxes, death, resources, things of that sort, okay? So she's already experiencing unexpected things throughout this relationship part, but now she's getting ready to go into more 8th house manners, which are more material manners. And Taurus rules the material world. So that's a great time to have your mind on your money and so forth. If it's in your 2nd, say, or your 8th house and everything. If it's in your 10th house of careers, unexpected changes with your careers and so forth. So that's a way you can look at it. There's a lot of free resources that will show you, your current chart with transits on it, and that's how you'll see. As I was saying, with the retrograde transit, to me, the 2020 retrograde season is all about go back and clean up your mess, Oh, I didn't get that before. Let me get that now. So I suspect Uranus in Taurus during this retrograde is giving us a chance to go back and clean up some messes that we needed to do, to think about some situations that we possibly haven't looked at fully. So I definitely want to say that. And then I think I got it. Energies, taxes, recessions, the myths, the gods of it all, the shield, the symbology. So with Taurus, I mean, like, that's like a such earthy element. And this week we're in now has a lot of fire element and everything like that. But this earth energy is interesting because it's a mix of the elements. It's a mix of it. And if it's earth energy, it's unexpected changes and disruption here on earth. We got it, right? We've got it all. So going forward, it's about stability, land, gold, the material world, the shifting of things, the changing of things, the karmic reckoning, the realigning with earth and with more sustainable practices. So for each one of us on a personal level, as I mentioned, we're being asked to confront our stuff, to confront our debt, to confront our waste, to confront our excessive materialism, to confront the ways that we could be kinder to the earth. Small practices can go a long way, Get you one bottle instead of a bunch of plastic water bottles, and then that teenager doesn't have to clean them up after the ocean. Thank you very much. Things like that. Like, what can we do on a personal level, and how can we reduce our debt and realign ourselves with our true values and what this earth really needs at this time? I mean, that's quite the big challenge. There was a bit more I wanted to say about the retrograde, so I'm going to actually put that in the description so I don't sit here just like digging for it right now in notes and everything like that, because I feel like I've covered the main target areas that I wanted to point out. It's such an interesting transit, and when you look at all those areas that it's covering, all those different themes that I went through, I'm going to say them again just to have a stick in there, Revenge of the Nerd, Cow Rebellion, The World Gets Smaller, Currency Counts, Food Failure, Lord of Earthquakes and Lightning Bolts, Unexpected Weather, and then the Gold Rush, News of the Weird, Energy Shifts, Space, UFOs, all kinds of crazy stuff, the End of Fast Fashion, the Burden of Ownership, and a bit more uniform dressing, keeping it simple. We need to watch against fascism, and we need to watch against food shortages and our practices. We need to get back in touch with the earth. If you're interested in a life with a more sustainable pace to it, a more simpler life, a life with more meaning, more aligned with earth, nature itself, and values, then this is the promise of Uranus and Taurus. There was not a time historically when Uranus and Taurus didn't really make his mark and didn't really show huge changes in society and even on a geopolitical level. The people just have to watch and guard against the fascism, against Big Brother, against people who can't seem to stay in their own lane into their own area of expertise, and really try your hardest to stand in your integrity and support these companies I'm talking about, the ones that put, people and nature before profits. Think about that. It's so easy to give these companies your money. Still we do it, and we're not really thinking about it. But get over it, because there's a good chance they won't exist in 2026. There's a good chance that they will be taken out. So we have a chance to reinvent a lot, and if we can manage to walk backwards, we'll better navigate this. The history shows what we have to look out for. The history shows where we're being challenged, what we're being asked to examine, and how we're better asked to modify where things are at this time. So hopefully we'll rise up to the challenge, and we will appreciate some of the wild card weird that is Uranus. And now, hopefully, when you see these things, you can be like, I know what that is. I think I know what that is. And we have 6 more years of this, 2 years in, and we're already warming up, and we have 6 more years. So use this information and co-create a beautiful life for yourself. Again, I'm Holly. Please follow us and like and follow along and subscribe. What the Stars Say, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and let's see how long those stay. Let's see if they make it to 2026, right? We're going to be on a whole new platform then, a whole different level. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad to catch up and share this subject with you. This is one of the most important transits that we have going at the time. It's such a major player. I'm glad I had the opportunity to break this down for you, and I appreciate and value your time and attention. Thank you.